All right, good morning. Welcome into another edition of Catching Up with Tommy Mack here on 1010XL's podcast platform at 1010XL.com, the 1010XL app. We are live on Facebook. We will be archived over on the YouTube channel, spread all over across other platforms, and all over social media. Brought to you by my friends at Team Tommy Mack. And I introduce a brand new member of Team Tommy Mack. It's the Baracus Group out at the beach for risk management and security. And I'll talk about them a little bit later along with the team. They are absolutely fantastic, always there when you need them. We're off to a late start, and we're going to have to get through some things rather quickly before I jump on Jaguars today with Fat Tony and Dylan. I saw Mike Dempsey last night and his beautiful wife, Heather, along with a thousand, I think, at least people down at the stadium for the J Fun, the Tom Coughlin J Fun Wine Tasting Gala, second year inside the stadium. Man, I tell you what, it's a cool setup, and big thanks to Shad Khan and the entire Jaguar organization, and of course everybody that helps out the J Fun. But man, what a spectacular night! All the restaurants, all the wineries, everybody just there for a great cause, helping the families here in Northeast Florida that have kids with cancer, and it's just absolutely great. What a great outing. But anyway, great to see everybody, including Coach Tony Baselli, the new executive vice president. He gets up there and has a nice message on a video for the fans, and cool to see him as in that role. We got a lot to get into, though, with the combine happening. Mason Graham checked in under 300 pounds. I have my thoughts on that. A little bit of the NFL world. Travis Kelce, should I stay or should I go? A little room out there. We'll talk about that briefly. Before we move on, welcome in my man Grammage. Grammage, good morning, buddy. How are you? You got the teal on, I see.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
It's Friday, baby.
Yeah, I had to leave early last night at the event. My daughter Avery she volunteered helping with social media for the J Fund. She was down there. I dropped my Kelsey and my wife off at the airport, Christina off at the airport today. Kelsey is moving to Los Angeles to chase the dance dream. Hey, I love her. Kels, go get him, kid. I already told you how proud I am of you, but go for it, man. The dream does not chase you. It is so true. You know what I mean? It's not just going to come to you. You got to go get it. So it's going to be fantastic. But so I couldn't stay there very long, but I was told that James Gladstone was there. And I said that my Avery said, yeah, I saw the new GM. I said, oh, man, I didn't know he was there. And she's like, yeah, I think he, whatever. But I said, did you say hello? She's like, no, I kind of got, a little shy. I didn't go up to him. I said, well, maybe next time. But I wish I would have, because I would have loved to say hi to him and welcome him to Jacksonville. Everything's in place. It looks good so far. But what a great night last night for sure. I mean, just fantastic. And I know 1010 was out there as well.
Was Gladstone not an Indy?
What's that? He must have flown back. A couple guys flew back because I was talking to Chad Johnson, and the assistant special teams coach, Farrell, was back from Indy. So maybe they I know a lot of them went up. Maybe some come back, go back and forth. I don't know.
It's not that bad of a flight, so.
Not when you're flying private.
Right.
I don't think anything's a bad flight.
Well, that's true. But even a normal flight, it's pretty short. An hour probably to get up to Indy, hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Yeah. It's nothing.
It's probably similar to the Nashville flight, which is not bad.
No doubt about it. Speaking of it, I was saying this to Chad last night in the locker room. That's where the beginning of the event happened. And I said to him, it's Tony Baselli he's the way he projects himself is very executive-like, Now, I know he's run companies. Like, I've never seen that side of him, right? I don't know Tony is that. I know he has done that. He's done a fantastic job, that startups included that have done well. I've never seen that side of him, but I like what I see. I like it more and more as I see it, and I think his presence, like a soothing. I know he hasn't done it, but I get that. There's skepticism out there. Who cares what anybody else thinks? They can think what they want, and they know they got to prove it. Tony knows they got to prove it, but The more I see him in that role, man, he looks really comfortable in
It's
the
very
role.
natural.
It's natural.
It's
Yeah,
very like the way he's taught, like the tone, the demeanor. It's like it's how someone in that role should carry themselves, and you don't feel like he's forcing it. You don't feel like this is not something he's used to. It's like this is, and you can tell too. I think Tommy, like, I think it's clear that he has thought about serving the Jaguars in this type of role for some time now.
Yeah. I think he's been working towards it for
I
a
think
while.
he has
From what
too.
He said he was doing some things with Mark Lamping,
Yeah.
learning a few things. And look, he's not winging it. You can tell.
Correct.
He's very
Correct.
calculated. He's very calm, and like you're saying, like when he's talking, he's very educated in the landscape of what's going on and what they expect here.
It isn't like, they called him overnight one night and was like, "Hey, you want to do this?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure."
No, right.
Like it was very much like it. I get the sense that he's probably had multiple conversations with Shad Khan that maybe date years.
Yeah.
In the past, and maybe 5 years ago, this wasn't something that was going to happen then.
Right.
But it was like, hey, if this ever lines up correctly, like this is going to make some sense, and now it does. And
look, it's nice is you've got the first year head coach. I know Tony's first year, but he's been around. He's been part of the organization.
Yeah,
he's a little bit older, So I like it. Hats off to them. I think they're doing a good job so far. But at the end of the day, they got to do the right job. They got to put together a winner. That's with talent, and that's with coaching as well. So remains to be seen.
We've talked about this before, Tommy, and you're always a big proponent of it, and I agree. Like, this is the honeymoon phase, right? Everyone's awesome.
Yeah.
Liam Cohen's amazing. James Gladstone is the smartest guy you've ever seen. Everything's awesome right now. Where Tony, I believe, will be incredibly important is when maybe things aren't going so well. At some point in the season, this offseason,
like a slump or something like that.
Correct. What Shad has, I think, truthfully never had since he's been the owner is somebody that can give him a true, knowledgeable, fair opinion, football opinion,
right?
That's not through the lens of trying to save my own ass.
Right.
Everyone that he's ever relied on for football opinions has been in. Trent Baalke has done shady things. People call him a snake, but nobody would go to their boss and be like, "I'm the problem." No one would do that.
No,
right?
No, but listen, and Tony's never been in that role. But if things go south, he's going to try to save his ass too. I mean, everybody tries. Even players try to save their ass.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I believe.
I know what you're saying.
I believe in this whole structure. I think the whole point is Tony is more so just giving Shad his opinion on how Liam and James Gladstone are doing.
He's a liaison.
So if they fall short 2-3 years from now, Shad will be able to get an unfiltered opinion on how those two are performing, and they could maybe get somebody else in if it's not working out.
Yeah, are they keeping Tony in that regard or not keeping Tony? Because that's, what I mean? That's where the saving of the ass
That'll remain to be
in.
seen, of course, because if it's bad in 2 years, then the fan base is going to say they got to get everybody out.
I don't think it's going to be. Listen, if they can play some sound football, they can double their wins. I mean, let's be honest. That's why they didn't win last year.
I agree, and this was why I think when we talked about before they hired Tony, we were like, Tony does not need to be hired to draft people. He needs to be hired to be the eyes and ears.
Well, I think he needs, because I read where he's been trying to get into all the O-line interviews, and he's trying to just listen in on them. So the thing I like about that is he's going to be like, I like what that kid's made of.
Yeah.
Not talking about talent, not talking about the film, but I like what he's saying. I like his demeanor. What he's saying backs up how he is on film. What he's saying is backed up by all the other intel we've done, people that know him, that kind of thing. So I think that'll be good, and he could take it away from, getting enamored with whatever. Like the guy yesterday from Texas A&M blew everybody's doors off with the workout. Shamar is his name. I have it written down. Yeah, it is. Shamar Stewart, big D lineman. I mean, ran like ridiculous, 4.5, jumped to the moon. Everyone's raving about him. And he's had 4.5 sacks in 3 years at Texas A&M.
If Trent Baalke was the general manager, just go ahead and ahead and make his jersey.
No, right, but that's you look at that and you're like, okay, is that? And I know how NFL people are. They're like, man, let me get my hands on that. Like, kid that big that can move like that and run like that. I'll make him into a player. That's the thinking. But you don't never know if that matches up. That's the biggest thing. You know, it's interesting. Yesterday on the Horse's Mouth, we had Coach Mike Malarkey, Coach Dave Campo was on, and Coach Gerald Ingram. And I said, what was the least part of the combine you guys did? They're like, the interviews. The interviews are a waste of time. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I mean, they're all putting on a show. It's all the same stuff. It's all the same questions. You know, show me the tape. Let me look at the workout. Let me talk to him a little bit, and then I'll make my decision based off that. I thought all three of them. You know, we had Super Bowl winning coach, 3-time head coach, and Mike Malarkey, and we know the history of Coach Dave Campo. And Beasley was there, too, our coach, too, here at the charter school, the Duval Charter School in Jacksonville. But it was an awesome, awesome segment. But, you know, look, so those are the things that I think what is the hardest thing to do when you're trying to evaluate talent from the college pool into the NFL. Like, we'll slide in the Mason Graham talk. Mason Graham, okay, was listed at 6'3", 320 pounds. You watch him on tape, he moves a lot like lighter than that. He moves very quick. His hands, his feet, his hips, very quick, like very good change of direction. Disruptive force inside, no question about it. And then you see him weigh in at the combine. He's 296, and he doesn't look that impressive. I mean, he's a big guy, but he's not like 320 big. You know, you're thinking, I know, and everyone's like, well, Braden Fisk, and I get it, but Braden Fisk wasn't the 5th pick in the draft. And now, would he be? Maybe if you redid it. Probably not because of his size. They'd knock him down because of that. But if you knew he was going to give you 8.5 sacks as a rookie, now, is that part of the defense? Is it just he's a good fit? I mean, obviously he's a very good player, and I like Braden Fisk a ton. And I'm thinking Mason Graham's like a 30-pound heavier type. You know, I heard Prosser, I think this morning, he's like, man, I got to have a Cortez Kennedy if I'm taking a D tackle at number 5. And I agree with that for this team. You know what I mean? I got to have an all-pro, big-time player. And maybe Mason Graham is. I wrote on Twitter, like, it raised an eyebrow. I know it did. People are like, wait a minute, 296? I thought you were going to be like 320. It's a big difference. That's 30 pounds.
I need Jeffrey Simmons.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm like Chris Jones, Jeffrey Simmons, Jalen Carter, guys like that. If I'm taking a number 5. Now, if I jump back somehow, which I think the Jags are in a pretty good position to be dropping back, depending especially how the first part of the draft goes. Someone's going to come up and want Sanders, the QB. I think Ward will be gone by 5. Sanders may be there. I think that could happen. But I think teams are going to jump up and even get in front of the Jags.
Jeffrey Simmons is 304, by the way.
He's a lot bigger on. You sure about that? What size? How tall is he? 6'6"?
6'4".
Man, he plays a lot bigger than that.
He does. Plays way bigger than that.
Okay.
But Mason, so if he
he's
comes
like
in,
6'3", 296.
If
I'm not
Mason
saying
Graham,
he can't be a menace, but that does. It does. I don't know.
But I think it's fair. Like if the reports are 320, and he comes in at like in college 320, and then he comes in at the combine at 296, can we split the difference there? Can we get to 310?
Well, he said he played at 310 during the season. So why? And I know he's got a heel injury.
Yeah.
But man, this is what I don't get. If I'm Mason Graham, are you not trying to look as jacked as possible, especially if you're not going to run? You know what I mean? He didn't look like now granted, he was just in a T-shirt and sweats. You couldn't really tell, I guess, but he just didn't look that big. He looked undersized. Now, hey, look, if you're Aaron Donald, you can be undersized as a defensive tackle. If you're quick, fast, strong, all that stuff, you absolutely. 296 is not undersized. It's just not, for me, at number 5, you know, that's what I thought it was going to be. So maybe I need to just get over that and go by what, you know, I know it's like turn on the tape. Okay, look, I know he did great against Ohio State, but he's probably not going to see the guards and centers that he went against at like Indiana, you know, maybe one. You know what I'm talking about? Purdue. There's no knock on those schools, but not all those linemen are playing in the NFL.
But I get what you're saying, though. It's not the physical, like, punishment that you take in the trenches inside in the NFL every single down.
Yeah.
It's not the same when you play Rutgers.
No, right. And I think, look, I don't know. I thought, he could play on that nose in the 4-3 and then also slide to the 3 when needed,
296 ain't playing nose.
You're not playing no. We have
Yeah.
that. We have that. We have that in Ledbetter. We have that in Hamilton. We have that in those guys in that range. So
I think
and they're not effective at that over the center position. They're just not.
I was about to say, Tommy, like, I know we talked about it briefly last week. If they were to take Mason Graham, it becomes even more increasingly obvious to me that's a base to 4-3.
Oh, without a
That's
doubt.
a 4-3.
There's
You
nowhere
can't.
else to play
You literally
him.
can't.
No, he'll get. And the knock on him is, if there is one, is that he does, with double teams, he can get swallowed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Which, look, at that weight, you understand why. You're a little bit thicker, which I think we need here in Jacks.
So,
I think we need more of that bigger type space eater that's athletic enough to make some plays for you.
So I have a more X's and O's question on that as a former linebacker. Like, when you take that double team as an interior D lineman and you get quote unquote swallowed up, like, what does that mean? Does that mean you're getting driven backwards?
You're not splitting it. Yeah, and you're basically getting engulfed.
Because if I had to get, I mean, I'm not really watching like trench play like that when I watch a game, but if I had to guess, I mean, if you're commanding a double team, a lot of times you're probably not necessarily the one making the play, but if you're holding court and you're not getting pushed back and they got to dedicate 2 guys, now Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, Eric, like, these other guys can eat, and then you as a linebacker, you're going to get free shots on guys in the run game and what have you. Am I accurate? Or
Your job in that, it's a great question, your job in that situation is to split the gap as best you can and not let either player off freely to the linebacker so he can come up and make a play.
Okay.
Not getting driven back into his lap. You might not bust through the gap, but because where's the weakest point? It's
in the
where
middle,
they come together. So they work on like double teams. It's not double team isn't I'm just taking one guy and move him out of the way. No, I got to find that weak point and then expose it as best I can without letting this guy or that guy out. I'm trying to like envision like being a defensive tackle, but not letting them get off to my linebacker freely so my linebacker can come up and make. And if they do, then I've got to make that play. If like, say the guard center's here, boom, I split it. He gets off, and I make the tackle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or even if I split it, these 2 guys still got to worry about me.
Right.
So
yeah.
Foye Oluwakin's got a sack.
And
Devin
for the
Lloyd's
record,
got a sack.
splitting it's not necessarily like busting through the middle of it and being in the backfield. Splitting it is getting through that weak point and standing your ground and not going nowhere.
Yeah.
That's what splitting is.
Because if you get pushed back a little and you don't split that, then one of these guys can then split off at some point, go get the linebacker in the second level.
How many times this past year, over the course of the year, would I say you can't be pushed into the linebacker's lap?
Yeah.
And they were.
Yeah.
Almost every game. Not every play. There was plenty of good plays, but the bad plays, what you can as a line, I can't see over that. I can't see around that. I can't see through that. There's nowhere for me to go except guess which way the back is.
And if you're playing against a good running back, you're gonna be wrong.
You're done. And eventually they're gonna peel off and just get in your way or grab you.
Right.
Because you're trying to read. You can't attack any. There's nothing to attack. You're not going to attack this glob of, your defensive tackle and these 2, guard and center and try to 3-on-1 stave them off and make a play right. No, you'd have to guess. You'd have to jump around it and try to come back in, or, hopefully the guys that aren't getting pushed back are coming in and making the play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was great. That was great, man. I like that. That was a good Friday session. We should get the board out or something, man.
Get a good Friday tape study.
I like it. So can Mason Graham do that?
Yeah.
Maybe. My friend Jeff Scanino was a defensive tackle for 17 years in the NFL, and he was undersized at 275. He was ultra, ultra strong and a really good athlete, but he was wicked strong, like real strong. Legs, bench, everything. And always had been. Known him since 8th grade. In 8th grade, we played basketball against each other. His calves were gigantic. All of us were like, oh my gosh. And he was hairy as can be. We're like, who is this guy? Yeah.
That's an alpha male.
Yeah, he played at Purdue, was drafted 7th round, and then ended up playing 17 years as an undersized defensive tackle with like 6 different teams. Super Bowl with the Rams when they beat the Titans.
Yeah.
He was actually on the field on that last play. He played a lot for them.
Wow.
Yeah, he was good. Anyway, so you can get it done. I'm not saying you can't. I just don't know enough about Mason Graham if he can or not. And when I saw, and granted, it was one report that's one of his concerns is being able to handle the double team. And now you're talking, like you said, it's different. In college, look, I say this all the time. Now, McGrant's a different era, so I understand maybe it's different today. But you might have, and we played against, Miami, Penn State, Syracuse, West Virginia, Pitt, like a lot of good, really good college football teams. Take an offensive line tackle to tackle. One could play, is going to the next level, maybe 2. Hardly ever 3, maybe if it was Notre Dame. Like Notre Dame had some really good Aaron Taylor, Lindsey Knapp. Norman was a really good offensive line. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, maybe 1, right? So the guy that you're kicking his ass all game long is going to be not playing football, when he's done with college. He's a good college player. He's a starter. That's great, fantastic. What a great career. But he's not who you're going against in the NFL. You know what I mean? So then it's look, as a scout, as a GM, as somebody that's picking this town, that's where you gotta be really good at what you're looking at. You do. I was thinking, like, as I was talking to coaches yesterday, like if I'm scouting somebody, and I'll tell you the reason why is because when I used to plug in the VHS tapes when I was home, my parents would tape every game that they could find on TV, or somebody would send them a tape, and so they'd save them. When I was home on break, I'd watch them, but I'd watch them when I thought my dad was like going to bed and done. I'd watch them at night because I would I would fast forward the bad plays, but I'd watch the good plays over and over. And I swear to you, a handful of times he'd come in, he'd be like, rewind that one back. And I was like, oh, he's been watching. And then we rewind. But you think about it, like, okay, everyone's my highlight film, which it's phenomenal. I'm making plays all over the place. It's absolutely great highlight film. But what about the days you struggle? Like, I remember playing against West Virginia. They had Mike Compton. They had Rich Bram. They had Adrian Morrell. Fantastic running back. Ended up playing in the league for a while. And those guys did too. And they were a bitch all day. It was a struggle. I made some plays, and we tied 24-24. They made some runs on us, nothing major, but I think we gave up over 100 yards. They were tough. It was a tough game. And I would be like, if someone said, what's one of your toughest? I'd be like, I'd turn on that one. I'm not going to like it, because I get blocked a lot, for whatever reason, bad reads, whatever, missed a tackle or 2, made some plays too, that kind of thing. But I know if I'm looking at I want to see the bad days, and then I'll see the good days. Like, and if a bad week comes before a good week, I'm real happy about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you bounce back that next week. Maybe you had a bad game. Maybe you're Will Johnson. You gave up. You got beat deep. Maybe someone's, hurt you that day. 5 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. I don't know. How'd you come back the next game? Oh, you shut that guy down? Okay. That means something to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I sorry to kill you off. I think people, and I get it. You're like, no, I see this. I see the stats. This is who we should. It's not. I mean, you think about all the misses. Just think about all the misses over time in the first and second round. There's a ton of them. Because they thought, oh, that athleticism, I can make them into a player. I know they weren't that great in college, or they were good enough, but we can make molded clay. Like, let me have that. Like Shamar, the kid from Texas A&M. People are gonna be like, man, I want that. 270, ran a 4.5. Holy cow! Long arms, jump to the moon. This guy's got so much potential. Doesn't mean it's gonna turn into production. But that's the guess, that's the risk, hopefully you've done enough homework that you make an educated guess on that. or decision, and it turns out to be good. But a lot of those times, they don't. They don't turn out to be that great. I'm not saying he won't, but you get enamored with all this physical stuff, and then it just doesn't, for whatever reason, come together against NFL competition. It's a challenge. And quarterback's even worse. I mean, think about that. Because, in college, you don't think about it. You get time most of the time, unless you're playing a really good defense, which may be, one game out of the year where you're constantly harassed?
Yeah.
Maybe two, depending if you're in the SEC. I know there's teams that, have really good pass rushes in college ball. Like when you're harassed the entire game. How many? Well, in the NFL, you're gonna be harassed.
And in college, your weapons versus the DBs is such a difference.
A lot of
like,
big mismatches.
I mean, there are so many guys Trevor had this luxury. Tua had this luxury.
Yeah.
Bryce Young had this luxury. So many of these guys that have gotten drafted lately.
Yeah.
I mean, when you got like Trevor, when you got T. Higgins in college, man.
Yeah.
Nobody they play can guard T. Higgins.
No, right.
Nobody.
Right. So the window of the open window to make the throw is
it lasts
huge.
a lot. Do you remember Tua's rookie year?
Yep.
And they had that whole back and forth thing with Tua and Fitzpatrick or whatever.
Yep.
They had like a mic'd up one game of Fitzpatrick, and he was coaching him up on the sideline, and he was telling Tua, he's like, hey, man, that window you see is not going to be there
right.
a second and a half from now.
Right.
You got to throw it.
Right.
He's
right.
like, and
you
he's
gotta
like,
believe that it's there and you can make it to the point.
And he was trying to tell him, and he was doing a good job of being a good teammate. He was encouraging him of like, hey, sometimes that's going to mean you're going to throw a pick.
Yep.
But that's the NFL, man. The best quarterbacks throw picks.
Without a doubt.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But like
Far
you can't
half picks to his touchdowns.
But you can't sacrifice 150 yards, 200 yards passing
right.
that you wouldn't have otherwise had
right.
because you're scared of throwing a pick.
Again,
every play.
it's back to throwing it to a point. It's throwing it to a point. Every throw has a point that it has to go to in order for it to be successful. Doesn't mean it won't if it doesn't. Like, the guy make a great catch, bounces off the DB and into his hands, whatever. He just makes a great catch, however it is. But for the most part, you put it in the right spot, and you're going to have success. I do have to get going to Jaguars today. Look, real quick, I know a lot of people talking about Christian Kirk this week. Look, man, I wish him nothing but the best. I know he wants to be out there. I know he's a really good player when healthy, but that's really risky for year number 3, in my opinion. They're going to do whatever they want, and God bless them. And hopefully if he stays, great. If he doesn't, I wish him nothing but the best. Ingram, I'm keeping. Unless you're going to replace. Look, I heard Liam say maybe we get creative at number 5, and who knows? I think they're going to be in a position, I don't know if it's not 100%, but they have a chance to move back. What if they move back and grab that kid from Penn State?
Ooh.
You know what I'm talking about? Like, that's creative as all
baller.
Get out, right?
Baller.
6'6" baller who
Tyler
can fly.
Warren?
Yeah, Tyler
Baller.
Warren, yeah.
Oh,
you know
man.
what I'm saying? Like, that's creative. And look, I think that kid's going to blow the doors off at the combine.
I do too.
And he may jump into that top 8, top 6. You don't know. And that's the thing about, again, back to, now you look at his tape, right? And the games that you've watched him. I haven't watched him all the games. I probably watched 4 of his games in the last 2 years, and he always stood out, maybe 5. Always making plays, always, blocking like crazy, always cameras on him because he's doing something in a really positive light, right? And then the way they used him, I mean, that was all big national news. And then he backs it up with a workout. Now you're like, okay, compared to the kid at Texas A&M, we're like, wow, what a great workout. What did he do on tape? Well, he had 4.5 sacks in 3 years. Like, oh, all right, well, maybe he's a great run stuffer. Let's see if that maybe is worthy of, a top pick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas you go to Tyler, we're like, oh, yeah, we saw it on game day. We saw him running around in the bowl games or whatever, those national TV games where he stood out. Number 44 stood out for Penn State for the at least 2 years that I've been watching, maybe even 3. I don't know how long he's been starting there, but he's really good, man. He's a really, really good player.
And you talk about getting somebody that can help you fix those red zone blues.
Yeah, no doubt.
Dude,
right.
It's 3rd and goal, the 4-yard line. You throw it up to that big SOB
right.
and see what happens.
So if that happened, I could see you letting Ingram grow and keep it Strange.
I agree.
And I would like that would be a nice 1-2
because
right there.
Ingram,
and I like what they said about Strange. What Cohen and Gladstone, sorry to cut you off, what they said about Strange. He's got something they can utilize. Big time. I'm glad to see that they said that.
Ingram is really, really good. I don't want him to go anywhere, but Ingram is his main X factor is his speed.
Yeah.
Linebackers can't keep up with him.
No, he's a
speed-wise.
mismatch. I agree.
And he can go up and get it, but we've seen it before for sure.
Absolutely.
But I wouldn't say that's like his thing.
Right.
I wouldn't say he's like the prototypical like basketball box you out type of tight end.
Yeah, not given a ton of opportunities though in his defense.
And I'm not saying he can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm saying the way Gronk was, the way Tony Gonzalez
Listen,
was.
2
like
years ago when he had the 100+, he was just so money. Now, not for a lot of yards down the field, but they had nobody else going. There was no one else to go to. Like, he was the only guy that if Ridley wasn't open, Trevor wasn't going to anybody else but Ingram.
And a lot of those were crossers where I got a step on the linebacker and then I'm beating him to the corner. I'm getting that's where Ingram's really, really good.
No doubt.
But I'm talking, and he went up and had that great catch against Green Bay. But
no, he's
Tyler
got all the
Warren,
tools,
man.
But you get Warren in here, you're gonna think
baller.
Differently. All right, that's going to do it for me this time around. More to come next week. Want to thank everybody for all the love and support. We appreciate it here on Catching Up with Tommy Mac. We are adding a camera, so next week I think you're going to be able to see Grammage. He's a beautiful mug of his. We got to get the youth movement going on in here. We're going to have that added to the show. Please check out TommyMac.net. You'll see this show. You'll see The Horse's Mouth. The Horse's Mouth, we're making a celebrity category, so any type of celeb that we've had on locally, where have you, sports, entertainer, they're going to have their own category. Going to promote the heck out of that, and it's all there on TommyMac.net. So is Team Tommy Mac, always there for you when needed. I'm telling you, they are absolutely fantastic. On TommyMac.net, check out their logo, click on it, takes you right to the respective websites. They are always there when you need them. Grammage, thank you, man. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you on the radio. Headed over to Jaguars today at 92.5 FM. Until next time, stay safe and be cool. Be cool and stay safe. And we'll see you right here on Catching Up with Tommy Mac. Peace, everybody. Thank you.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.